Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Matt Willson SFL Kickoff Show. I'm Mike Daggs. He is Gerald Smith. Behind the scenes, we've got Cameron Irvine on production. Welcome to the quarterfinal week here in Season 25 of the Simulation Football League. Gerald, and then there were 8.
And there's 8 left, and Mike had trouble finding the studio, got a little bit lost. That's why we're kind of a little bit
It's
late
raining out.
happening here. It's mist. It's mist. I braved the mist to get to the studio. You somehow got lost. I
I
don't know.
did. But here we are, and now we are ready to get into the quarterfinal round. It was a great wild card
Yeah,
round,
sure was.
especially when it got to the end. It started off a little lopsided. We had Florida and Washington. It's a game that you and I had talked about last week, and we said this is probably the one that might be the most lopsided. It ended up actually not being the biggest lopsided one, but Washington did get the win. They would strike first with a touchdown. They would never look back. They got up 14-0 before Florida would finally get a field goal late in the second quarter. A touchdown right before the half would give Washington a 21-3 lead. Sammons and Dean, they would put on a rushing clinic. Gerald, it was 60 carries, 341 yards, and a touchdown. They averaged 5.7 yards per carry on 60 rushes.
Look, and it just proved like Florida was what I say they were, right? They just the
Come
winners
on.
of a bad division, and they're able to get in. But look, they made the playoffs. It is what it is.
They
But
did.
it's I'm gonna break a little bit down when I have to, but it just proved why I didn't think they really deserved to be in the playoffs by losing like that.
Yeah, and Washington getting the win and advancing on to the next round here. So Baltimore and Denver. Denver had a very similar fashion to Washington. They would get out big early. Denver would actually get out in front 17-0 midway through the second quarter before Baltimore would finally get their first points, which was just a field goal. It was a very well-balanced attack by Denver. O'Shaughnessy on the ground, and then you had Kleinecht and Goodman through the air, nearly 100 yards apiece.
Look, and that's what they did. And we did think that this was gonna be one of the closer games, but guess what? Denver established dominance, right? And they applied a lot of pressure on the opposing QB and forced some mistakes, and they just seemingly ran away with it.
Yeah, they literally ran away with it. It was a great job by O'Shaughnessy, and then the yardage through the air by Kleinecht and Goodman to just give Denver, or excuse me, give Denver the win, but Baltimore their final game, their final farewell. That was it for
Yeah,
the
they
Baltimore.
did.
So,
They went down in a ball of flames. They
yeah,
didn't go out in a blaze of glory. They went down in a ball of
ball
flames.
flames. Yep, exactly. So Chicago and Denver. Listen, Chicago had back-to-back weeks against Oklahoma City. This was not Oklahoma City.
No.
This was Arizona. And the Scorpions would get a big touchdown on their opening drive. Couldn't get any yards on first down or second down. Third down and 10, found Fox Highwind for a big 80-yard touchdown. And, Chicago would respond, though. They would get a touchdown of their own. But Arizona would put up another big one rather quickly later in the first quarter, and that opened a floodgate when they would end up getting out in front 24-7. Chicago would finally put up a field goal. Gerald, 6 minutes, 12 seconds to go in the second quarter, and they would not score again. That was it. They'd put up those 10 points. That was it. Arizona, they'd go on to put up another 16 before everything was over. 40-10 victory over the Warriors.
Arizona did something really similar to Chicago that Denver did to Baltimore, right? Applied a lot of pressure. They shut down the run game of type attack, completely shut them down. And guess what? They sacked them and they forced some mistakes, and then they just kind of took over the game.
That was the most lopsided game of the week by far. 30-point margin of victory. And then finally in the wild card round, we would get ourselves a competitive ball game. This was really the only competitive one from wild card weekend. Pittsburgh and Sin City. Pittsburgh would strike first on an opening drive touchdown. Sin City, they'd answer right back with a touchdown of their own on their first possession. Pittsburgh getting ready to score another touchdown. Instead, they throw an interception right there in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
So that ended that drive, and that would ignite a lengthy series of punts and picks by both teams. It was like 7-7 early on, and then it was just like, well, what is even happening at this point? Back and forth they would go. Pittsburgh would finally get a field goal late in the second quarter. They took a 10-7 lead into the half. But a Pittsburgh field goal with 2:47 to go in the third quarter would extend their lead, ultimately 20-14, because Sin City would find their way into the end zone again in between that. But those 20 points, that would be Pittsburgh's final points on the night. late in the third quarter. Ace Fennick would throw an interception with 5 minutes to go in the fourth, and that would prove to be the dagger because Sin City responded with the go-ahead touchdown, closed out the game. It was kind of a sloppy game, though, ultimately, Gerald. Both quarterbacks threw 3 interceptions on the night, and Sin City, in my opinion, effectively just won that game because time ran out and they happened to be ahead at that point because it was just going back and forth and both quarterbacks just kind of playing a little sloppy that night. But
Right.
Sin City would get the win.
And even despite how sloppy it was by both teams, right, throwing 3 picks, the key one was that late one that was thrown by Pittsburgh right at the end. And Pittsburgh not being able to put any points in the fourth quarter. They gave up 10 unanswered in the fourth quarter to ultimately lose that game. So, I mean, credit to the season. They had a great season, but toward the end, the last 3 games, they kind of fell off of how they were going right in the season where they ended up winning 8 games in a row.
And that would bring us to the quarterfinal week. So let's look at the updated look at the playoff picture and see where everything is at. You can see the results of the wild card games there on the outside. And then, of course, the schedule right there in the middle for quarterfinal weekend. It's going to get started tonight, 6:30 p.m., right after the show. Number 11, Sin City at number 1, Vancouver. And then at 9 p.m. tonight, we've got number 5, Denver at number 4, Houston. We've got Jacob Clear and Ramos Lynn on the first call, Chris Curtis and Mark Lopez on the second one. Tomorrow night, we've got another pair of quarterfinal games at 6:30 p.m. Number 8, Arizona at number 2, Mexico City. I can't wait to break this game down because that is how the season started. Not just for those teams, but for everybody. That was the season opener. And here we are right back again, Arizona at Mexico City. That'll be Brandon Walters and Jesse Long on the call. And then at 9 p.m., we've got number 7, Washington at number 3, DC Dragons. Tyler Falk and Brett Solberg on the call. And Gerald, we're going to break down all 4 of those games for everybody. So we'll jump right into it. Let's start off with we'll start off with the last game of the weekend, and we'll work our way back towards the one coming up here in just about 36 minutes time. So Washington at DC. It's a rematch from all the way back in week 4. DC would win that one on their way to a 6-0 start. And for Washington, it was their second loss in a row on what would become a 3-game losing streak. And in week 6, they'd break that losing streak by beating Fort Worth 26-7, and they haven't looked back since. They went 7-1 the rest of the way, including winning last week, like we just talked about, convincingly over Florida. Meanwhile, DC, like I said, 6-0 start to the season. Well, how about since that time? 3-3 to close the season out. You know, for a team that looked so dominant through the first 6 games, they suddenly had question marks around them. Nonetheless, they finished 9-3. And the number 3 seed. So both teams have learned a lot about themselves and about each other since that early season game. Statistically, these teams were very similar throughout the regular season. They mixed in a solid blend of the run and the pass. They're very evenly matched throughout. And honestly, I think this one could go either way.
Yeah, and that's it. So these 2 teams, like, one seems like they're going to working their way back. One is just kind of stuttering along, even though DC coming as the number 3 seed. So we'll see how it's good. Look, the Trident, they were dominant last week. You mentioned it, right? They rolled over Florida 31-10 last week, and they proved, just like they proved me right, saying, hey, look, Florida didn't belong in there. But look, like you had mentioned, right? They ran for over 300
it was
yards.
Insane. What a performance on the ground.
Right. Dwayne Salmon, himself rushed for 224 yards, and Dean added another 107 along with the touchdown, right? Like you said, 60 times they ran the ball. It was just crazy. They were just being that productive in the run game. And what is amazing to me, Tommy Utah only threw 6 passes, completed 4.
Yeah.
3 of his 4 went for touchdowns.
Yep.
He only had 104 yards passing. So Terrell Cooper had 3 catches, all of them touchdowns, and 90 receiving yards out of the 104 Tommy Utah threw. So, look, crazy efficient. They were so dominant up front. They dominated line of scrimmage, and it did it. Look, and this is the thing, and it's kind of and their offense looks kind of scary, and it's kind of crazy. They had this type of offensive output, and in the season they had the number 14th ranked offense.
Yeah.
And they come in here and they just ran right over them and ran for over 300 yards, and it was insane. Like it was crazy.
And the defense did just as good, if not better, than the offense. You talked about the offense rushing for over 300 yards. How about the defense holding Florida's offense in its entirety to 214?
Salmons ran for more
Yeah.
yards than what the entire Florida offense gained. They only
It
allowed
was
214 yards
Yeah.
of total offense. Look, and they just smothered just Florida out big time. Right? They was able to control the line of scrimmage and to set the tone really early on. They kept the all-star wide receiver Mike Trinscrew had a phenomenal season.
You did.
To only 3 receptions on the game.
Yeah.
Look, and the SFL leader in interception, Albert Begin, guess what? He added another one to his interception collection for this season. Look, and leading the defense to a complete and dominant performance while only forcing one turnover. They
Yeah.
did it by only forcing one turn, so it's complete domination. Look, and they are and they have the number 4 total defense, number 2 pass defense, number 8 rush defense, and are number 4 in scoring this past season. So, and they went in the last game and they proved it. They just completely dominate, and they're going to have to keep that up against the DC team. The key players going to be the run game with Sammons and Dean. Can they replicate something similar? Not 300 yards worth, but can they replicate to get a lot of production? Can they be that dominant? And Utah, be efficient with your attempts. Be efficient because we know when they was on their losing streak, he threw a ton of picks. Keep it clean. Everything else, defense, just do everything you did last week, and you might be just fine.
Just do it again. Yeah, because they're going up against a DC team that had a really great season. They did stumble a little bit, like I talked about.
Right.
You know, they had that 6-0 streak, but then they went 3-3. But they're still really solid.
Yeah, and their defense, I think, is the strength of this team. Right, number 9 in scoring, the defense, number 3 in pass defense, and number 7 total defense. Look, and they also have one of the hardest hitting defense in the entire SFL, forcing a league-leading 8 fumbles on the season. So they are able to just, and it happens a lot on the back end, coming over those DBs, being able to hit guys and the linebackers and everything else. So look, they have playmakers across the entire defense, that led by all-star linebacker Nick Fargo, who has 5 sacks, along with Chris Britton III and cornerback Darrell Bullock, who has 5. They both have 5 interceptions apiece. So which is really good, right? One of the few, defense that play as a collective unit, right?
Yep, very much so.
Everybody plays together to get there, and they play really, really well, and they could be dominant.
But the offense is more middle of the road, and in terms of the points scored per game, but they're getting it done though.
It's weird, right? But they score the points that are needed. So you might be a struggle. They're barely beating teams. You would think a team that's 9-3 would dominate teams. They just haven't done it, right? Synergy has been among the league's most accurate and efficient quarterbacks. He's number 1 in completion and number 1 in quarterback rating. Look, and he has all-star pass catchers to throw to in Connor Weston, number 5 in receptions, number 5 in receiving yards. Did really well. Lauren Pakoko as well, doing really, really well. The run game is a bright spot for this offense as well. Kevin Say and Sam Harrison have produced when called upon. Look, both have just under 500 rush yards for the season, so they can actually step it up. But I need Synergy as one of the key players. I need him to stay efficient and mistake-free. He, too, when they have lost, have struggled with the turnover bug. You have to stay mistake-free. The defense, the way Washington ran the ball, you have to control the line of scrimmage, because if you don't, you might be in trouble. You want to force those 3rd and longs and force Tommy Utah to beat you. Not saying he can't, but you need to force him to beat you.
Yeah, because you can't just let those 2 guys run all over you all night long like Florida did. You're going to lose if you do.
I don't think Florida let them. They just got owned, man.
They just got owned.
It was just what it was. They
just got beat is all that
And
was.
it's uncharacteristic from a Florida team, too.
Yeah.
Their DBs are known for playing the line of scrimmage, and I don't know what happened recently, especially this season. They just didn't have it well put together.
We'll see if they're able to rebound next season, but for now, Washington advances on to this game, and Washington at DC tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern. And another game we've got going on tomorrow night. Obviously, this is the one I'm looking forward to the most. I'm a little biased, perhaps. Arizona at Mexico City. Here we have another rematch game, this one dating all the way back to week 1, game 1, the season opener. Arizona, they came out on top in that one, 20-13. And for one of these teams, it's now come full circle. It'll also be their season ender. So I mentioned last week about Arizona's roller coaster season. They won 2, then they lost 2, then they won 1, they lost 1, they won another, they lost another, they won 2 more, they lost 2 more. But they won their regular season finale, putting up a dominant performance over Chicago in the wild card round last week as well. So now they've won 2 in a row. does the roller coaster continue at this point? Up, down, here we go.
You would hope.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Listen, they were 7-5 on the regular season. 3 of those losses were on the road, and they are back in Mexico City for the quarterfinal round. And after losing to Arizona in Week 1, Mexico City would finish the season 8-2. 2 of those losses, though, were weird blowouts. I'm sure you're going to talk all about that. The 2 worst losses for the team in the last 3 full seasons, but 6 of those 9 wins were also 2 scores or more. So when they win big. When they lose, apparently they lose big. So 3 of which were 29 plus point margin victories. I guess this team knows how to win. They have a better record this season than they did in season 24 when they would go on to win the championship. In case you forgot, back-to-back champions.
I
just making sure you remember. I can never let you forget. But so far in my coaching career, I don't seem to know how to beat Eddie Gage's Scorpions, Gerald. 0-3 thus far. So, the old adage is the third time's the charm. I think it's the 4th time that's supposed to be the charm.
And that could turn into the 5th.
It could, but I think it's the 4th time's charm. What say you?
Look, Arizona, they came to play last week, right? And they made a statement, on one of the hottest teams going into playoffs, right?
Yeah.
They completely dominated Chicago in all aspects of the game. Look, they forced 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions, 1 fumble, and completely shut down type attack, right?
Yep.
I mentioned earlier, right? Look, and you know what they only allowed? They only allowed 39% completion percentage last week. It was phenomenal. 0 touchdowns from the league's top passer, Dede Sacks, and Alex Constantine had a combined 5 sacks, which forced their opponent in a tough situation and to be able to force a turnover, right? The offense got the ball, and they did not waste those opportunities. Brad Jones and DJ Moses combined for 158 yards, 3 touchdowns, while Ashley Jackson found her top wide receiver, Fox Highwind, for another touchdown.
Early and often they found him.
This was, in my opinion, the complete performance from an Arizona team we have seen all season long. And if this is something they can sustain and keep putting together, I think they might have a chance against the defending champs. Look, but they are facing one of the toughest teams, who I'm going to consider. Look, you guys are the best until somebody knocks you out and make sure you're not the best anymore. But guess what? They have a tough task. Even though week 1 was a long time ago, man.
It was.
It is what it is. We all know what week 1 is. But guess what? Facing a dominant team like yourself, right? So, look, can they do it? And their key players, it's got to be Moses and Brad Jones, right? They got to be able to get there and do what they got to do. Establish run, take the pressure off of Ashley Jackson, because when you protect her from herself, good things happen. And Eddie seemed like lately he's found a way to do it, right? That way she stays away from those critical mistakes, keep it clean. The big dog Moore and Adam Wise on the defensive side shut down the run and force the former MVP, Jordan Sipe, to beat you. I think that's where the key is, forcing Jordan Sipe to beat you. If he beats you, shake his hand and say, good game. But you need to force him to beat you. Don't let Bentley do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't want to talk any more about my own Aztecs, so I'll let you jump right into it. I'm sure you're going to dwell on the whole little 5-game stretch that wasn't so good. Go ahead.
Look, 2-time defending champs, right? Look, and here we are again, right? We're right here in the quarterfinals, right where you guys like to be. But there was a 5-week stretch this season where the Aztecs got blown out twice and barely beat mediocre teams. That was from week 9 to week 13. And I thought, man, maybe they just don't have it this season.
I was just tired, man.
But I don't know.
Now.
The last 3 games, you guys beat the crap out of teams and proved that we are the 2-time champs until we decide we're not, apparently.
Right.
So, look, you guys have flipped the switch and turned into playoff/championship mode, in my opinion, right? And are looking very, very dangerous, right? Whatever changes you guys make, it just took it next level, right?
Yeah.
Top 5 in all stat categories that matter. Number 4 in points scored. Also, number 5 on the defensive side in points allowed.
Yep.
You score over a touchdown more than what you actually allow. Look, also, guess what? You're number 2 in the rushing offense department. Oh, and you're like, hey, I'm number 1 in the rush defense too. Like, not only can I run the ball, I can actually stop it really good as well. Very good across the board, especially as of late. The offense has been on fire. You guys have outscored opponents 132-60 over the last 3 games. That's 44 points a game over the last 3.
I keep telling Ramos to allow 0 points, but
yeah, dude, it's
okay.
insane. Like, and you guys have forced 10 turnovers the last 3 games. You guys have picked the ball off 8 times and recovered 2 fumbles to go along with it.
Yeah.
Nearly half of you guys this season total have come in the last 3 games.
Yep.
It's insane. So you guys are stepping up right at the right moment. You guys are peaking. Key players, Bentley, he's been pretty good as of late. Seemed like he runs for a touchdown in overtime to win a game.
He's
He
rejuvenated.
Says, I am back. I am back to my MVP running days, right? So, look, and guess what? Jordan Sipe, take it easy. Be that game manager. Play smart football. When you're
That's
not
what we
throwing
need from
picks,
him,
Jordan, you are that MVP type of quarterback
Yep.
you can play. Fowler, along with Daggs and Jackson on the back end, all 3 with over 100 tackles, 3+ interceptions each. You guys can control the game at all levels on the defensive side. So Ashley's going to have to bring it, the run game. Eddie's got to bring everything he needs to be able to beat the 2-time defending champs. It's going to be a tough task.
Yeah, John Fowler, Jeffrey Daggs, Max Jackson, all making the All-Star game, and it's because of their performance late in the season that really set that in stone for them. Just doing absolutely fantastic. So, we'll see. I mean, again, I haven't been able to beat Eddie yet. He beat me in week 1 by 1 score. We'll see if I'm able to maybe sneak a win away from him when it matters most, right here in the playoffs. Appreciate everybody joining us in the chat. I see Ernest McCrae, I see Carol, Matt's mother. Shows she's in there as well. Always supporting the show. Appreciate you, Carol.
Yes.
And
T-shirts
JW
are
Hartshorn.
amazing.
They like. JW
amazing.
likes the T-shirts. Carol likes the T-shirts. So you know what though? We've got the semifinal show next week, so we'll do the shirts again. Championship suits.
Suits? I can do a suit.
We'll do suits for the championship.
Do
It's a big
suits.
game.
Big game.
It's a big deal.
Yeah,
You
sure
got to
is.
stop slumming it.
And maybe I don't know, if you guys end up making it, you might go rogue and wear your
I'll wear a
Aztec
hoodie over the suit.
over the suit.
Yeah, it'll look ridiculous. Well, maybe I'll just wave one of those little Mexican flags that I've got. We'll see. I've already got enough Aztec stuff. Anyway, so that
They
game's
even
tomorrow.
list things
Yeah,
somewhere.
I should turn that trophy around so everybody can see the
It's
Aztec.
not.
No, all right.
Your rings are blinding enough.
It's fine. It's fine. So we've got some games going on tonight, Gerald. We've got Denver at Houston. That one's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. Let's talk about that one. Denver only lost 4 games all season long, but one of those losses was to this Houston team back in Week 12, and it was a 31-10 drubbing.
Yep.
All right. Denver would get back on track, though. They'd win 4 of their last 5, including an impressive win over Baltimore last week. That really wasn't even close. It's not as close as the score indicated. I mean,
No.
got way up early and never looked back. And the only loss in that pack of, where they went 4 of 5 was a 24-21 loss to fellow quarterfinal team Washington. So it was a very close game. Houston, they just had an amazing season right up until the end. Right? They lost the season opener, but then they would go on to have a 9-game winning streak in what seemed like an easy path to the South Division title and
Shoo-in,
potentially the
almost.
number 1 seed. And then they'd lose their final 2 games, Gerald. They would finish 9-3. They fell short of the South. They would drop down to the number 4 seed. But going back to that Week 12 game, right, it was in Denver. This one's in Houston. Denver has looked really good as of late. Houston has not. So this game has some serious question marks around it. Does Houston return to leaning on that ground game that was doing so well for them throughout the season? But does Denver expect that and plan for it? Will Denver continue their impressive run they've had as of late? Does Houston figure out how to get themselves back on track after allowing more than 40 points each in their last 2 games? Like, there's a lot going on here. So break it down for us. Talk about Denver.
And what a performance last week, right? They shut
Yeah.
down the hottest team in the SFL. Look, and the Hatz's defense applied a ton of pressure on Wigmore. 6 sacks, 42% completion he allowed, right? And they even got a pick 6, right? They was able to control the line of scrimmage and play that Denver type of game that they won, right? 6 different defenders last week had a sack.
Yep.
It was insane, right? And it was one from each level of the defense, believe it or not. They had, first, second, and third levels. All of them had a sack at least. Like, look, and they were also consistently in those passing lanes, being able to knock the ball down. Look, and on the season, we already know, hey, look, they're number 2 in takeaways. So,
Right.
so they're always there, being able to, force mistakes and everything else. So, but the offense was efficient and mistake-free. Blanton threw for 244 yards, a touchdown, 78% completion precision.
Triple-digit quarterback rating.
Triple-digit 125.4 quarterback rating.
Ridiculous.
Tight end Kleineck and Goodman, right, had great games as well. Bailey O'Shaughnessy did his thing in the rushing game. He had just over 100 yards and added a touchdown as well.
Yep.
Look, this team in my opinion, they can present a challenge to a Houston team that I would consider 3 weeks ago
Yeah. Number
to
one
be
seed, best team.
like best
Yep.
best team, right? Up until that point, right? But guess what?
Times change.
It's changed, and it's a long season, but God, man, things get packed in real short, and then it starts questioning what you got going on. Look, and they can come in there and they can surprise this Houston team.
Yep.
Look, and who, even though they beat them early on, look, the key players, look, the Hats' defense, number 4 rush defense, right? We know Houston likes to run. They beat to slow down that rushing attack, and they can do it with players like linebacker Chuck Diesel and Tank Bennett. They are run stoppers. They had them in Louisiana. They can play all over the field, cover the whole thing. And Bailey O'Shaughnessy set the tone, which can open up the pass for Blanton for him to be efficient as he can be.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. And it's something that is going to be interesting to see how they're able to hold their own against Houston, because Houston, like we've been talking about, a lot of people consider this team to be the best team in the SFL. I know, including yourself.
Yeah.
All the way right up until the end, and then these last 2 losses kind of messed things up for them a little bit.
Yeah, it gave us all pause to be like, wait, are they what we thought they were, right? During their 9-game win streak, they have only allowed 12 points to their opponents average per game through 9 games. Guess what? The last 2 games, guess what? They have allowed no less than 43 points. That's insane. It's like, hey, where's the defense going? Look, they just have not looked like the same team that they were doing that 9-game win streak.
Right.
Look, and defensively, they haven't forced very many turnovers. And you know what? Late in the season, sometimes you need that turnovers that you need to be able to, get your offense back to ball and actually put points on the board.
Especially when your offense is committing turnovers.
Yes, and guess what? And they haven't all season. So guess what? They are second worst in takeaways on the season, which proves how good their defense can be.
Right.
But now when the defense starts getting tired toward the end of the season, you need those takeaways, man, to give them a little bit of rest and everything else. They just haven't been able to do that, right? And then you couple that with the offense having 9 turnovers the last 2 games, and that will definitely result in losses 100%. You're not taking anything away, but you're giving away a ton. And the Lake Man, has not played mistake-free ball at all. He's thrown 8 interceptions over the last 2 games.
And that's why I think they might try to revert back to the run game. Take it out of Lakeman's hands. You got to get it into the hands of Tino Sosa. Let him do his thing. Had such a great season.
Yeah.
Let him cook, man.
Look, and that's when they're doing like the right thing. When Sosa and Blue Scott are doing their thing, right? They're not turning the ball over. Those are not the guys that are turning the ball over. It's when you put it too much in the hands of the quarterback, right? Look, and they can get behind really quick, and it forces you to pass. If that run game isn't working, it's forcing them to pass. And they need to get that established. Look, they still have the 6th best offense in the league, number 8 in total defense as well in the SFL. So they're still really good, considering they give up a ton of points and yards over the last couple of weeks. Really, really good team. They just have not played like it as of late. Guess what? Key players, the Lake Man, he has to eliminate the mistakes. And sometimes, look, DeMond might have to see about the Eddie Gage type of, look, protect your quarterback from themselves.
Right.
Take the ball out of hands, create a little bit of something to make him feel comfortable, get himself in a rhythm, right? Because you cannot win with the play he's had over the last 2 games. You can't do it. Too many interceptions.
We love you, Lake Man. We love you.
Oh, yeah. It's look, but
you got to stop throwing it to the other team, my guy.
Relax, look, and you love Jordan Saint. He throw a lot of interceptions.
He got to do it. You got. We're wearing green this week, Jordan, just to let you know. We're wearing green this week.
So, but look, and we have to start relying again on Sosa and Blue Scott as an offense. If I'm Houston, get good yards on 1st and 2nd down to make that 3rd down more manageable, so it's not a 3rd and long and you're forcing the throw, right? Take the pressure off of the Lake Man. When he has a lot less pressure on him, he can find what he needs to get done. And he has quality guys. He has Mike St. Green. He has Damon Simeon, the best receiver ever, right? Just you can almost throw it up and let Damon catch it. He'll catch it and do whatever else.
He's down there somewhere.
And the defense, I do think this game is going to be won in the trenches if Houston is going to win right here. The defensive line, right? It's going to have to pressure the quarterback and slow down the Denver run game and force their quarterback to be able to beat you as well. So that's what you want to do. It has to be won in the trenches for Houston.
Agreed. The defense for Houston really needs to step up, because that Denver offense last week just efficient across the board. They had a darn near 100-yard running game by one guy. They had darn near 100 yards to the tight end. They had darn near 100 yards to a receiver. Like, you can't allow that level of efficiency and expect to win the game, especially if your quarterback is making mistakes. And Damon Simeon in the chat says our last two games have been crazy with the amount of turnovers that we've had, giving up 8 in the last two games when only having 11 on the first 10.
Yeah.
So, but that shows me that obviously the Houston coaching staff, a.k.a. Damon Simeon,
Oh, they know.
he knows what's up. He
Mhm.
knows what's needed to be fixed, and he's had an extra week to do it, whereas Denver was, worried about Baltimore last week. So,
Once the game started, I was like, really? We're worried about Baltimore?
yeah, it's like,
They
I
did-
mean, we were
They
kind of.
just, they just
Listen, we
coasted,
thought
but
we
I
thought
did,
Baltimore had
I
a good
did.
shot.
I did.
You
I did.
know.
I was like, man, I was back and forth on the picks.
You doubted your Hats's defense. that
Look, but I did say, look, I went with them. If anybody's gonna do it, it's gonna be Hudson.
Jimmy's hair just like it just kind of flopped a
No,
little
man.
bit when
No,
you were
it's not.
saying that. It
No,
just
it's not.
sank. He was
Yeah,
sad.
but you know what? This week they won. It's
Oh,
back
it's
up.
poof. Yeah,
It's back up.
immaculate, not a single
Yep.
hair out of place.
Nope.
From what Damon's going to try to fix that. He's going to try to mess up that hat. We're going to see what happened. That game is later tonight. I can't wait for it. Can't wait for it. So we have Sin City and Vancouver coming up next in less than 15 minutes time. This game will get underway, and this could be a good one. Let's talk about Sin City for a sec, right? They started off looking like they were down and out from the get-go.
I thought they were dead.
I did too. I think everybody did. 0-3 to start the season. It's like, all right, Sin City's nothing, right? But they would get things turned around, and they would go 6-1 through their next 7 games. So just pretend those first 3 games didn't happen. You've actually got yourself a solid season. But those first 3 games did happen, so they were 6-4 at that point. But then came a surprising loss to Carolina. I know you picked Carolina, I think, and they let you down.
Yep. Story of my life.
Happened. I would say that's what happens. And then they'd face the same Vancouver Legion that they're going to play tonight in the final week of the regular season, and that did not go so well either. 34-10, Vancouver would get the win over Sin City, and that was in Sin City's house. This game's going to be in Vancouver, but Sin City, as all things Vegas go, are just a weird team, right? Because they were 2-4 at home. But they were 4-2 on the road.
And we mentioned it last week.
Yeah.
We did mention
And then they won on the road again. So now they're 5-2 on the road if you count their road win over Pittsburgh last week. So could playing Vancouver's house actually favor Sin City? I mean, statistically speaking, yes.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
none.
But
neither does the whole Vegas. Let's move on.
with the samurai and
samurai
Vegas,
and everything else in Vegas.
I'm
is
telling you,
just
I've been to
confusing.
the Strip. I saw no samurai.
Yeah, me neither.
Talon Steele says they're up in the mountains. I don't know. I didn't go to the mountains. I was already scared just being on the Strip, and I didn't have a car. But I digress. So let's talk about Vancouver now, right? They were 4-2 at home this season, number 1 in the league in numerous categories.
Oh, yeah.
Way too many to list. If they're not number 1, they're top 10 at minimum, but usually top 5 in everything that they weren't number 1 in. They're just great all around, offensively, defensively. It's just they were the number 1 seed for a reason. This seems like Vancouver's game to lose, but it also has that classic feel of a trap game for me, right? Because Vancouver secured that number 1 seed, and they had that bye week last week. Could they fall into that trap of expecting a win against the lowest seed remaining from the wild card round, and they're already planning for those semifinals? Maybe, maybe not. Knowing Vancouver, probably not. They're preparing for Sin City just like they would any other game. But Sin City wins on the road all the time. It's bizarre. Can Sin City capitalize and keep that road win thing that they've got going on going?
Look, and what they do, look, and they've done it, I think, quite a bit this season. They've stolen a lot of road games. Guess what? They went to Pittsburgh, and they stole that game, right? I felt like Pittsburgh was in pretty much control of that game until a late mistake happened.
Scored first.
With the pick.
Yep.
It allowed, Sin City to get that go-ahead score, and then they make a last-second stand inside the 5, right, to win that game. And defensively, like, right, they actually played pretty darn good. They had 5 sacks, 2 of them for defensive end. Garrett Burney, who only had 3.5 sacks all season, but he came to playing the defense, getting
defense did good all game long.
And in the playoffs, right, getting 2 sacks, right. They had 7 TFLs on the game. They forced 3 turnovers. Kanye Rockefeller was a tackle machine last week, 16 tackles, right. And they slowed down the SFL's number 3 rusher and only allowed 58 yards rushing last week to Pittsburgh. Defense looked not quite Canton-esque, but it looked really good, right?
flashes of the past,
yes,
for sure.
being able to do it, right? Especially late in the game, right? They was able to, get in there and actually do what they needed to do, right? And the offense, guess what they did? They took those opportunities that the defense applied, and they were able to put the points on the board.
Yep.
But as we know, you mentioned it early on in the breakdown, the offense was not without its mistakes.
Nope.
Right?
Pittsburgh and Sin City both. They're just a mess on offense.
And this actually brought back questions to me about Scar Patterson's ability to carry a team if needed, right?
Yeah.
Especially in these big games, right? You threw 3 picks right before this game. I would agree. Hey, look, he's doing really, really well this season, but this last game threw 3 interceptions and only had 50% completion.
You're not going to be able to do that against Vancouver.
No, not at all. Look, and it just isn't going to get it done, especially like you said, when you play in Vancouver. It's just not going to happen. Look, he is top 9 across all quarterback statistics except for interceptions of QBR. You can take that for what you will, right?
Yeah.
He's produced, mostly through the season, but he does rely heavily on wide receiver Al Dillapre Sr., who was number 3 in receptions and yards, right?
He had a great season.
And Dillapre's ability to get open. And when he isn't, Patterson seems to struggle.
Yeah.
So, look, Sin City seemingly forgets that they have a former MVP running back and Logan Lee, and it can actually put up yards, right? Look, get him and Rojo involved into the offense to be able to balance it out a little bit, right? Because you still do. Look, and we all know Week 16, they lost to Vancouver, 34-10.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't that long ago. It was the last
on their minds. Right. That's still fresh.
Look, and they need their key players this week. They need Logan Lee and Johnson. Get them involved. Establish a run and take the load off Scar Patterson, right? Patterson, no mistakes. You need 0 mistakes this season if you want to win against Vancouver.
Yep.
You can go back and look at your stat line from Week 16 and what you did. Don't do that. You cannot do that offensively from the quarterback position.
Right.
Defense, mimic what you did last week, right?
Yes.
Pressure the quarterback and force those mistakes.
Yeah, agreed. Sin City's defense, I think, really carried them through that game. And, both quarterbacks throwing 3 interceptions last week. Bo Martin Jr. in the chat actually says, it's crazy how Ace threw 3 interceptions just like Scar did. Yeah, both offenses were kind of just falling apart. But the defense held it together and, fortunately was able for Sin City to maintain that lead when the clock expired. Didn't give Pittsburgh a chance to respond after that late touchdown. But, they're going up against Vancouver again, who beat them just recently. And Vancouver, man, they've just looked so darn good all season long.
Yeah, and they've just been steady, right?
Yeah.
And they've only lost – they lose 3 games. They've only lost to playoff teams 8-4 or better. Houston, D.C., Washington, right? They are the best team in the SFL despite – at least my lack of saying so for most of the season.
Yeah.
It was Houston. It was all of a sudden it was Pittsburgh at the same time. And I'm like, everybody forgot about Vancouver.
DC early on.
Yeah. So, and guess what? Like, man, they're just top 5 in nearly every category, both offense and defense. Number 1 offense, right? The only offense to average 400 yards of offense per game.
Which is insane numbers.
And they are number 1 defense in the SFL, right? They also have the number 2 scoring offense. They give 30 points a game, right? That's what they get. And their number 2 scoring defense only allowing 16 points a game on the season. So, look, just elite across the board. The passing offense is elite. Christian Brown, number 3 in pass yards, complete percentage. QBR, number 2 in passing touchdowns. And is also the 2nd least sacked quarterback in the SFL. That's really good when you keep the quarterback upright.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because guess who he's thrown to? A Hall of Famer in Brett Killian. Number 9 in receptions, number 7 in receiving yards, number 1 in touchdown pass receptions.
Yep.
He does. And then you sprinkle on a little bit of John Michael Sudduth, 50-plus catches at 600-plus yards. And then you throw Nick Lockett, a guy who used to farm play in Mexico City. You know how good he can be.
Oh, yeah.
He also has 50-plus catches.
Yep.
And 800-plus yards on the season. Oh, we're not even going to mention, we didn't mention yet the running back and fullbacks in Lloyd, Dorian Wells, who all have 400 rush yards on the season as well.
Yeah.
It's insane. When you put all that together, you have yourself a top-tier offense, most likely the best in the SFL, I think, right now.
Playing the best, for sure.
Look, and the defense is just equally as good, right? But they just have way too many playmakers on that defense for me. They have all 13 contracted players play at an extremely high level, and they put them in. You only put 11 on the field, but it seems like they have all 13 on the field at the same time the way they played. Look, my best team in the playoffs right now, they are the team to beat. They are the number 1 seed for a reason. Key players, I can't name anyone. Why? Because they just play.
Just
Everybody
all of them.
plays.
Just do your thing.
Their thing, and they
Yep.
do well. They have really no faults that I can just pinpoint at all. So they just go out there and play the Vancouver game.
There you go. So that one's coming up in just a little bit. We've got a $1.99 super chat from Zeeble. That is Matt Wilson's mother, Carol. Says, smash that like button through emojis. Took me a minute to decode that. My brain's sometimes it just doesn't brain. I don't know, but I get figured out. Smash the like button. Keep up the great work, guys. Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that very much. So that game's coming up, Gerald, in just a few minutes' time. So let's get through our picks. And I'm 79-49 on the season now, and you are 76-52. You made up some ground because, man, I could not pick teams in the wild card round. I went 1-3. You went 3-1. We've got 6 games left to pick. Gerald, we mentioned it last show. It has been since season 19 since a wild card team was able to make it to the semifinal round. Let's go through our picks and see if we think that maybe this will be the season where a wild card team sneaks through, or is it going to be all of these teams that got the first round bye, all the home teams? Are they going to win it again and get to the semifinal round? We'll start with the game coming up next, Sin City and Vancouver.
And this one I think is fairly easy for us to pick. Vancouver, right? We can't tout them enough. Best team in the SFL right now. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. The way Sin City played with a lot of mistakes last week.
Yes.
I think like I said, I think they stole that win away.
Yep.
Right? And you're not going to play that type of game and go into Vancouver and you're not coming away with a win if you play that way. Vancouver is really clean, really efficient. Vancouver wins it, I think, by 2 scores.
Yeah, Sin City's it's been a weird team. They beat the crap out of the Aztecs. I mean, I had so much confidence going into that game, and they're like, nah, I don't think so. Bam, ruined my whole Vegas throwback thing. It was ridiculous. Sin City's got a chance, but Vancouver's just too darn good. They've had an extra week to prep. Give me Vancouver at home. Denver at Houston.
And this is a tough one because these are both teams that I love. I love both of these teams, Denver and Houston. And Denver's playing really, really well, right? They're playing really well right now. And Houston isn't. Let's just say what it is, right? There's so many mistakes and everything else. But guess what? Given 2 weeks to prep and finding the flaws in your system, I think Houston figures it out. I think it's going to be a close one. Denver has a really good shot how they played in that defense. And they can scheme really, really well. We know Jimmy can do it. And that offense is really, really efficient, too. The way Michael Goodman's doing this thing as well. So, but I think Houston has the home field advantage right here. And they looked the past 2 weeks being able to figure out their problems, and they corrected. Houston wins by field goal.
I'm pretty sure that I've seen Houston more than any other team in the league. The Houston and Mexico City matchup history is longer than an entire page on a computer screen. It's ridiculous. I know Houston. I know Demond, and I know what those extra week of prep will get them. They may have lost 2 in a row. They're not losing 3. Not losing 3 in a row. Give me Houston at home. Arizona, Mexico City. Obviously, I'm picking Mexico City. What says you?
And Arizona was like it doesn't seem like that long ago, but it was long ago when they beat you guys in week 1. But guess what? So many emotions go up and down in week 1, and you have no film on anybody. But guess what? You guys have really turned it around. When I thought maybe you guys didn't have it midway through the season, you guys flipped the darn switch. Next thing you know, you're back in playoff mode and dare I say championship mode, right? Because you guys are going for that 3rd in a row. Arizona, guess what? It was really, really clean. Played a really good game last week. But I don't think they have enough juice right there. I think you guys have what it is defensively and offensively. You guys match up way better against Arizona than they match up with you guys. So I do think you guys win it. I think it's going to be a touchdown game.
Okay.
But I'd be surprised if it's a blowout.
Obviously I'm going to take the Aztecs. Will Dan Tritz get a sack? Probably not, but he'll be there. He'll be on the field. So that's all that matters for Dan Tritz.
Punts. Long snapper.
He is one heck of a long snapper.
He's the first guy down there after he snaps it.
He's got some hustle.
It's insane.
Can't find a sack to save his life. Washington at D.C.
This is where I'm going to take that wild card team and throw them into the semifinals because I do think Washington is going to beat D.C. Why? Because D.C. has seemingly just survived their way to a 9-3 record, in my opinion, right? They started out real good, but toward the end of the season, like you said, they went 3-3.
Yep.
They were just surviving through those games, and they weren't actually winning them. And in my opinion, they won the games, but I just think they were just surviving, right? Not that they actually went out there and just forcefully won the game. Washington, after I called them pretenders, I'm still going to take credit for that, getting you to the semifinals.
Whatever.
But guess what? Look, you guys are going to go into D.C., and I do think they're going to present a whole lot of problems for D.C., especially the way they played last week. I think Washington goes in there and wins it by a touchdown.
I agree with you on Washington will give DC a lot of problems. I disagree with the pick. Give me DC in this one. I think that streak of quarterfinal teams being the only ones to advance to semifinals stays alive and well. And I think DC is going to get the win and shut down Washington's season.
If Washington makes it to a championship because I blasted them and they win,
Whatever.
I want a ring. They gonna give me. They need to supply me a ring.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be in the mail.
I'll take all that credit.
I'm sure it'll be
Motivation.
In the mail.
That's what I'm here for.
Our timer has been at 0. I'm surprised we're even still on the air right now. We got to wrap this up. Listen, that's it for the quarterfinal round. We've got the semifinal show. We're going to bring back Ron Haynes. He's going to get some videos for us. We're going to highlight some of the teams, probably all 4 teams that made it to the semifinal round, and talk about how they got there. And the convention, we've got the final contract in hand. Just need to get it signed to turn back in. We will announce the convention location and dates on the championship show, so make sure you tune in for that. Can't wait for it. This has been the Matt Willson SFL Kickoff Show. For Gerald Smith, Cameron Irvine, I am Mike Daggs. Thanks for joining us. Get ready because the quarterfinals start now.